So ever since I started doing ballistic gel tests with the KAK 1 in 5 twist barrel, I've had a ton of requests to do a solid copper expanding bullet comparison between 1 in 5 and 1 in 7. And I was looking at Bone Frog ammo. I was looking to buy their Precision 77 grain 5.56 offering because I'd heard good things, and I noticed on their website they have a 62 grain solid copper expanding bullet. And what's interesting too is they actually make the bullet as well as load the ammo, so I thought this would be a perfect opportunity to do the comparison. So the reason I chose this 62 grain over something more common like a Barnes is just because when you're using solid copper rather than copper and lead, the bullets have to get pretty long to get their weight. So 70 grain solid copper bullet's really long, so you normally don't get the speed you're really after. So I just wanted to try it, so that's why I went with this Bone Frog for this comparison. So first thing we'll do is we'll do the ballistic gel test. We'll do the 1 in 5 and then the 1 in 7. Then we'll talk about it. But then I want to talk about my experience with Bone Frog as a whole, and I'll go over briefly their 77 grain and the 62 grain accuracy and all that kind of stuff. Alright, so it's going to be kind of hard to look at because there's 3 wound tracks in each block, but with the 1 in 5 twist we got some really consistent wound cavities. It expanded pretty much right away, so that's really nice. We got 25 inches of penetration on one and then 27.5 inches of penetration on the other. And then with the 1 in 7, the wound tracks look really similar. They pretty much expanded as soon as it hit the block. And we got 20 inches of penetration on one and then 26 inches of penetration on the other one. So pretty similar to the 1 in 5. This is a top-down view of the 1 in 5 twist. It seems like you can really tell that it was spinning a bit faster because the wound track just looks a little different. It looks like you can tell that it's spinning through there just like a corkscrew. And then with the 1 in 7, that first wound track is bigger than any of the other ones, and then the other ones are a little smaller than the 1 in 5, but you can tell that it's not rotating quite as fast. So you can see that like major corkscrew going on, and then here it just looks kind of like the same thing but just a little slower. Alright, so real quick, take a guess which ones came out of the 1 in 5 and which ones came out of the 1 in 7. So if you said this one and this one came out of the 1 in 5 and this one came out of the 1 in 7, then you'd be correct. So interestingly enough, the largest wound cavity actually seemed to come from this guy, which is the one that expanded the least and it penetrated the least, which is surprising because you'd think if it didn't expand it would penetrate more, but yeah, anyways, this one penetrated the least and had a slightly bigger wound cavity than all these other ones. They were all really similar. You could tell that the 1 in 5 twist was like corkscrewing more and it looked more impressive. Whether or not it actually is doing anything is another question. I'm really not sure. But obviously the 1 in 5 twist projectiles expanded a fair bit more actually when you look at it percentage wise. So with the 1 in 7 we got a 0.39 inch and a 0.40 inch expansion. Then with the 1 in 5 we got a 0.44 and a 0.52. And statistically that's actually like or percentage-wise, it's actually a pretty big increase. If we average these two together and then these two together, the percentage difference would actually be like 22%. So, I mean, that's not nothing, but obviously you'd have to shoot a lot of this, like get a lot of gel and just shoot hundreds of rounds to really get a meaningful statistical like average and see what exactly you're looking at. So it's not really surprising just based off what we've seen in the past. Like the 1 in 5 seems to always penetrate and fragment more, but in this case, since it's just an expanding bullet, it didn't fragment, but it did penetrate more. And it kind of seems like since the petals were twisting, they didn't just have all the energy pushing them straight backwards, so they kind of stayed a little more open. I don't know, but I don't really know the mechanism of it, but both of them were slightly bigger than the 1 in 7 twist. So a lot of people might see that and think that that is over penetration and that's not something you would want. I only have experience hunting, obviously not like shooting humans or anything, so it's hard to say, and a lot of times like maybe barrier penetration is what you're after, but what you're seeing in ballistic gel isn't going to be what you're seeing on living tissue. Like the example I refer to people a lot is the Lehigh Defense Extreme Penetrator. Like that 9mm was going through like 4 or 5 ballistic gel blocks, but if you shoot a pig like this way, like through the shoulder, it's not going to penetrate even out the side of the pig. So living tissue is obviously going to be really different. The best use of ballistic gel is kind of to compare different types of ammo like we're doing here, but it penetrates way more than your normal like 77 grain OTM. I don't think we've ever had it exit the block. Maybe we've had it like barely exit the block, but definitely not this much penetration. So argue amongst yourselves whether you'd rather have an expanded bullet that just penetrates more, slightly smaller looking, at least in gel, wound cavity, or the fragmenting match bullet that that doesn't penetrate as much but seems to have a bigger wound cavity. So accuracy of this bone frog ammo has been a little interesting. So the 77 grain stuff shoots super well out of my rifle, so I rebarreled to a Criterion just to give that a try. And this 77 grain stuff is a little on the faster side, which is nice, but it also shoots really well. Sometimes when they get going too fast, like they might not shoot real well in your rifle, but they're faster than most of the commercial offerings and they shoot really well. All right, so during editing, I realized I didn't talk much about the velocities at all. So I had 10 shots with the solid copper hollow point through the 16-inch Criterion, and Criterions are always a little bit faster, but I got an average of 3,065 feet per second, which is pretty good. Standard deviation of 11.9, which is also really good. So, and then for the 77 grain OTM out of the 16-inch Criterion, I had 34 shots on the chronograph for that, an average of 26.77 and a standard deviation of 13.1, which for that many rounds, that SD is not bad at all. Had an extreme spread of 41. So I've been doing 10-round groups because that seems to be what you guys want, is 10-round groups, and most of them are just above MOA or just under MOA, so it's like right around MOA. So for an AR-15, that's really nice, but the really impressive thing is the standard deviations. They're all really low. For every 10-round string of fire, it's pretty rare that I see an SD over 10, which is, I don't know how much match ammo you shoot, but when you chronograph a lot of it, you kind of realize like a lot of match ammo has really poor standard deviations, and this one's like just really consistent, really fast, shoots really nice, and like the price is definitely right. And so if you're looking for, and obviously it's going to vary rifle to rifle, but if you're looking for precision load, definitely give this one a try because it's less than $1 a round, and like I said, it just shoots really good. But the solid copper stuff for me out of my Criterion shot, the first group I shot was 4 MOA, which was kind of surprising. And then I didn't want to just leave it there because I messaged the guys on Instagram at Bone Frog, like, what kind of accuracy are you guys seeing? And they said they were seeing pretty good, like MOA or better. So I was like, oh well, you know, the barrel's relatively new. And Criterion's kind of weird. Like, it either shoots ammo really good or really poorly. It seems like there's no in between. Like, tipped Match King bullets for some reason just like shoot terribly out of that gun. So I didn't think too much of it. And then I grouped it with the 11.5, which is, you know, it's a weird twist, so I wasn't sure what to expect. And it grouped slightly better, but it was still like close to that 4 MOA. So I was like, oh man, like this isn't looking that good. But coming from a hunting background and just like a lot of reloading, like I know a lot of people who do a lot of reloading. I do a little bit of reloading, and so I've heard a lot, if you're going to be shooting solid copper bullets, you need to really clean your rifle if you've been shooting jacketed bullets, and then basically shoot nothing but the solid copper. And then if you're going to switch back, you need to do the same thing. Like, it almost is like one or the other. In my experience with like reloading for my 308, that hasn't been the case for me, at least shooting Lehigh defense bullets. But you know, I've heard it enough that I was willing to bet that that could be an issue. So I cleaned my Daniel defense barrel really well, threw it back on there, and then I shot, I haven't measured it yet, but I'd guess it's like a little less than 1.5 inches, which is way better than the 4 MOA I was getting from those other ones. But this was like a super clean barrel, so I have no doubt if I was to shoot more of this, it would tighten up. But I only went through this one box. I've only got 2 rounds left just to have for B-roll and stuff. So now I kind of ramble a lot and have a hard time getting like a cohesive thought out, so I'll try to summarize this video really quick. So this bullet performs really well with the 1 in 5 twist and the 1 in 7. The 1 in 5 seems to penetrate more, have a little bit better of a wound cavity, and expand more, which are obviously pros. It seems to line up with every other ballistic gel test we've done, comparing 1 in 5 to 1 in 7. Like, so there's no big surprise there. But to get like scientific data, you'd need to shoot hundreds of blocks and all that. But kind of goes in line with what we're seeing. And when you look at like the RPMs of the bullet, like, it just makes sense. And Bone Frog obviously loads really good ammo. I don't think the accuracy stuff I was dealing with is indicative of the quality of the bullet, especially when you look at the SDs. Like, most of them, like I said, are under 10. So clearly they know how to load ammo. But there might be some special considerations when shooting solid copper. So I'm curious to hear what experiences you guys have with solid copper. Their long range 77 grain line of ammo is probably one of the best I've used. I've been shooting tons and tons of match ammo lately. Like, there's not many I haven't used at this point. And for the price and the consistency and the accuracy, the Bone Frog one is definitely hard to beat. It's less than $1 around. The speeds are definitely there. And then the SDs, which are one of the most important factors in match ammo, are always really low. I mean, it's rare you get a 10-round group over MOA, like, which is super impressive. A lot of people say like a half MOA all day, but for an AR-15 that is pretty rare, but you know, it can happen. My buddy Sawyer shoots this stuff a lot. He's actually the one who told me about it, and he shoots it out of a bolt gun a lot, and it groups super amazing out of a bolt gun. So clearly it's quality ammo for a great price. So give them a look, and yeah, thanks for watching.